time for ethical hacking and cybersecurity. Please, I would like every one of us to be very, very attentive and in case of anything, please, if you know any of your friends or any of your colleagues that are not online, please do. We're going to be going into deep of what we started with last week. Okay, first of all, I'm going to start with the assignment which was given. The assignment was the first assignment. It was what is the dividing line between a hacker and a cracker, hence define it. Most of you from what I've seen so far, it's like the question was not well understood. But I tell you, this is a straight line, it's just a straight question, straight line question. There's nothing technical about this question. Well, last week when we were discussing, we talked about types of hackers, if you can remember, and we mentioned 3 types of hackers while we were talking about. We said main mention of this. We said that there are the skills and the skills which they possess and their understanding, that is what is used to differentiate them. And we made mention of 3 of them, which are the number 1, the ethical hacker or the white hat hacker. Then we made mention of the cracker, also known as the malicious hacker or a cracker. Then we made mention of the gray hat hacker. So the white hat hacker, the black hat, and the gray hat. So for that question, the assignment was asking you, the assignment was, what is the dividing line in between hacker and cracker? The dividing line between hacker and the cracker is the gray hat. That is the gray hat. Understand that the gray hat is someone, a type of hacker that have, most of the times he does whatever he is doing is just because of, perhaps because of the money involved. So you might actually call him for something good, and if you meet up to his price, if you meet up to his bargain, he will carry it out. If you call him to carry out something that is malicious, he will also do it. So that is the dividing line. Then you explain it. It's simple as that. Please, we should take note of that in case if we find it in our test or our exam. Take note of that. The dividing line between the hacker and the cracker is the gray hat. It is the gray hat. And you call them the gray hat because they are in between. They are on the wall. Whatever they are being called upon to do, be it evil or be it good, they are going to do it so far you meet up with their demands. That is just the explanation for that. Then the vulnerability, exploits, threats, and attack, target, and target of evaluation. Everyone actually did justice to that. Okay, with that, we are going to dive deep into what we already started with last week. Last week we made mention of the five phases of ethical hacking, or hacking generally. The 5 phases of hacking, because be you a white hat hacker, black hat, or gray hat, it is a general procedure. The same procedure which we are going to use. So we are going to be diving deep into all of them. So we are going to understand what each of them actually entails. And perhaps we are going to be taking a look at the tools. There are some of the tools. There are some of tools which we can get for free, and some are also being paid for. But we are going to check what are some of them. Okay. In this lesson, you are going to learn the 5 steps hacking process, which is used when hacking into a system. These are the phases which a typical hacker goes through in order to successfully compromise a system. These are the 5 basic phases of hacking, which are the recognizance. We made mention of it last week. The recognizance, scanning, gaining access, maintaining access, and clearing of tracks. You call it either clearing of tracks or covering your tracks. So as a good ethical hacker or as a good hacker, understand that after maintaining your access, you should be able to also clear your tracks. You should also clear your tracks. The first thing there is, which is recognizance. The recognizance is the first step as a hacker. In fact, the most work, if your recognizance, which is the first phase, if you do a lot of work in your recognizance in this first phase, you discover that the other phases will be very easy for you. It is in the recognizance you get most of information, vital information. It is from there you get all sorts of information. You should be able to filter them and know which one is very, very necessary. But I tell you, in the place of hacking, no information is useless. No information is useless, because as an ethical hacker, a single information which you can get, can leverage you to do whatever you want to do, can leverage you to penetrate into any system, be it the most secure system on this earth. One thing you should understand, that there is nothing like a perfect system. There is nothing like a secured system. Security, I've been opportune to read so many books on security, and I remember vividly one of the books which I read, and the author was writing security based on that the security is a superstition, in the sense that security is something that does not exist. The reason for his ideology is that no matter the state of your security, no matter the cut-edge technology which you are using for your security, your security, understand that a little flop can disorganize the whole system. And you understand that it is that is what is actually hackers are leveraging upon. This is what hackers are leveraging upon to actually perpetrate evil, no matter how small that information is. So many of the times, perhaps when we go deeper, we're going to study a kind of attack that is called persistent threat or persistent attack. Most of the times, this persistent attack go as long as up to 5 years, tracking individuals. Most of the times, they leave the individuals and try as much as possible to know the friends of this target or of this individual. If they are able to get a useful information from the friends of the target, from that they can use it. It serves as a stepping stone to them to get to the target. So understand that your recognizance, first of all, is the first stage. And if you pay attention very much, if you do well so much on recognizance, have it at the back of your mind that the remaining step will be so easy for you. But getting into the system will become so much easy, because it is at this stage that you get vital information, any kind of information that you need. There are so many of information which we actually need. So many of them reside there online. So many of them are there online. So, okay, let's understand from what is written here. So the first phase of hacking is recognizance. It is done to gather as much information about the target system as we can. Since all the data and information that we collect can be very useful in the later phases. This phase is perhaps the most important phase in the hacking. There are various techniques and tools used in recognizance phases. Some of the tools are paid, but most of them can be found free. Further, recognizance is also of two types. Recognizance is of two types. The first type is passive recognizance. Passive recognizance. That is from the word passive. Okay, what does passive recognizance do? How do you carry out passive recognizance? Okay, passive recognizance. When doing passive recognizance, we have no direct interaction with the target. We have no direct interaction with the target or the system. An example of this would be looking at the website of a target company, or checking out the job, or checking out the job opening to know what kind of position are available in the company. This is just as simple as what passive recognizance is. Passive recognizance is just as simple as you want to get information of somebody, and you don't know how to get across to the person. And you perhaps you can actually check, you know the name of the person. You can even as simple as going to Facebook to search the name of the person. That is passive recognizance. You go to Facebook, you search the name of the person, and you look for the person. You look for the perhaps maybe number or email which you can get across to the person. Most of us, when we left secondary school, or before we left secondary school, most of us, we don't know what was Facebook. But when the advent of Facebook came, you had, most of us wanted to reconnect with our school classmates back then. Sometimes you just go online, go to Facebook, and you search their name. Luckily, you might get some, and luckily, sometimes you might not actually get some. But perhaps you might actually get to someone else. But you might not, would depend the very target which you are looking for, the very person which you are looking for, you might not get him. But you know that, okay, this person, if I can get close to this person, if I can get to this person, perhaps there is higher tendency that I could get to the next person, the main target which I'm looking for. That is simple as passive recognizance. So passive recognizance is about, you are not having a direct interaction with the person, with the target, or be it a target, be it an entity, or be it a system. You might not actually have a direct, for passive recognizance, you are not having a direct interaction with the person. Okay. Also, we can do a quick Google search or look up on a public record, like who is. Understand that this word who is a website that you can use to check, records of websites. It's a website on its own. You can use it to check the address. You can use it to check details of other websites. Write it down, perhaps at the end of this lecture. Just type who is on your browser. It will link you to the site. Then type Facebook. When you get to the browser when you get to the page of who is, type Facebook. When you get to Facebook, it will bring up the whole details of Facebook. That is the owner of Facebook, the year it was founded, the IP address, the direct, the administrator, so many things which you can get. So with that information alone, which you've gotten, it becomes a step closer to what you are looking for. Who is, take note of it, who is a site, is a website which you can use to get information of different sites. Okay, that is for passive recognizance. Now, understand that, okay, we said earlier that the recognizance is divided into two. Then there are other things that you understand that in passive recognizance that you can do as a hacker. Okay, you can actually use so many means to get information, just like as we mentioned, like using of Google search. You can use Google search to get information. You can also use who is to get information. So understand that none of these techniques is direct interaction with the target itself. So these techniques fall under passive recognizance. The scope of what we might want to gather could include not only the system, host, or the server, but it also includes the client of the company or the targets, as well as the employees. We could also extract information from employees with the help of social engineering. What is social engineering? Social engineering is a technique that is used to manipulate people into giving information. That is social engineering. It's a technique used in manipulating people into giving sensitive information or information generally. You understand that most of the times the marketers, this is what they use. They use social engineering technique to get information from people. So as a hacker, you could also leverage on social engineering, one-on-one interaction with people. and you know that social person is working in a company, and you want to get information concerning the company, you could leverage on that, become friendly with them, then you begin to extract information from them. Then another way which you can use to get information concerning a target is what is called dumpster diving. Dumpster diving. What is dumpster diving? Dumpster diving is just as simple as you go to the trash. You go to the trash of an organization or your target. You go to their trash, and you begin to, that is when I mean trash now, I mean their waste bin. You go there and you begin to look for any kind of thing. You begin to look for any kind of thing just to get information. Why do you think that when you go to the bank, when you receive a new ATM, they tell you that after you change it, the piece of paper or the parcel of paper that it comes with, why do they tell you that you need to tear it before you dispose it? Or perhaps when you go to the bank and you want to make a deposit, maybe whatever financial transaction you want to do that warrants you to use a teller, and perhaps you make a mistake. Then you need to get another teller. Why is it advisable? You are being told for you that one you made a mistake. Why is it advisable that you are being told to tear it? The reason is that hackers can go to the length of even going to the trash, to the waste bin to get information. That is why, as a company, understand that security is of multi-layers. You discover that most of the times, information that are very, very delicate, we dispose them anyhow, and we become very careless with them. Take, for instance, a company that changes their server. You understand that most of the times we are very careless on the way we dispose the parcels that these things came with. We are very careless with them. So a hacker or somebody that is actually interested in the company could leverage on that to get information, to perpetrate evil. So all these things fall under passive recognizance, because the reason is that you are not having a direct interaction with them, with the target. Then understand this recognizance. Understand that we said there are two, passive and active. Now, for your active recognizance, when doing an active recognizance, we directly engage with the target. Since active recognizance involves interacting directly with the target, sometimes it could be difficult. Making telephone call directly to the target will be an absolute example of active recognizance. Yes, it could be an active recognizance. So you can actually call, pretending to be someone else, pretending to be someone else. Then perhaps if the customer care are not well trained enough, they can actually dispose sensitive information to you. Also, using a ping service to check if the system is responding or not will also be an active recognizance. Generally, understand that you can actually ping a website, or you can actually ping a system to know if it is active. For you to ping a system, you will use your console, your command prompt. You use your command prompt to do that. So now, generally, we do not want to go for active recognizance when we never know what will be on the other side. So it is better to go for passive way. If you are using a ping service to ping a server, then you are active. You are active touching the server. So pinging your active recognizance. For your active recognizance, there are so many tools. There are so many tools which you can use for your active recognizance. There are so many tools which you can use for your active recognizance. So understand, for your active recognizance, you are now indirectly touching, you are now indirectly in contact with the target, either through telephone or by pinging their server. What do I mean by pinging? For your port, for your server, there are different ports on your server. There are different ports on your server. Okay, for your HTTPS is having a port of 443. Your HTTP is having port 80. Your SMTP, that is Simple Mail Transfer Protocol, is having a port of 25. Telnet is having port of 23, and so on. SMTP File Transfer Protocol is having port of 21. So all these things, your Microsoft Active Directory is having a port of 445. These are active ports that are in every server. It is advisable as a security admin, any port that is not in use should be closed. I'm also telling measures as a security expert that you need to put in place. Any port that is very required in your server should be closed. So because if it is active port, it becomes active, hackers can leave or can take advantage of that. And secondly, understand that even if you have firewall in place, if you are not very good in configuring it, that is configuring the packets that goes in and comes out, hackers can also leverage on that. So that is what active recognizance is. So from there, we go to what is called passive recognizance. I'm sorry, we go to the next phase, which is called scanning. Now, based on the information which we have gathered in the first phase, which is recognizance, the scanning phase is where you use this information which has been gathered, you put them into use. The information which you have gathered in the first phase, it is in this second phase to put them into use. Because remember, if you pay so much attention in your recognizance, you won't actually spend so much time in your scanning. You can actually get a lot of information in your recognizance. And if you get information, understand that what are the information. First of all, you might be tempted to ask, what are the information that hackers are looking for? Firstly, understand that the information that hackers are looking for are: number one, active ports. Secondly, they are looking for servers, the name of servers and version of servers that organizations are using. Then they are looking for applications that are running on these servers. Then they're actually looking for the details of the admin, the server admin. Because most of the times, they're not looking at who is gives you a detailed information of whoever is managing that server. And if you can trick them, most of the times, understand that admin servers are actually being tricked to divulge sensitive information. One of the information that is regarded there, but now it is no longer useful. There is when registering a server, there is an option for you to put in your number, but due to security reasons, it is no longer advisable for you to do that. So what is required of you is for you to leave that blank, that space blank. But in a situation whereby you keep that message, that information there, people can get your number, and when they get hold of this number, they can trick you into doing divulging information unknowingly. It can divulge you into make you to give out sensitive information. Okay, this information which you have gotten in your first phase, which is the recognizance, it is in the scanning you make use of this information. Now, in the scanning phase, we use different tools to gather more information about the target. You use another different set of tools now to gather more information about a target. These tools include port scanners. Port scanners are applications or software that you use to determine active ports that are running on a server. That is just the simple definition of it. Port scanners are used to determine the active ports that are running on a server or on a host. Then ping tools. Ping tools are application software that are used to ping a network, or yes, you are using to ping a network or a server. Then network mappers. Network mappers are applications that you use to check a network. You use it to check a network. And one of these applications which are being used there is called what is called Wireshark. A Wireshark. So understand that when you use a Wireshark, you can use a Wireshark to determine what is running on a system, or what is running on a network. When traffics leave, when they get to their destination, you can use a Wireshark to determine all these things. Then another tools which you can use on this place is what is called vulnerability scanners. We talked about vulnerability scanner. We talked about vulnerability and weaknesses. So vulnerability scanner are applications or softwares which you can use to check for, to scan a server to know which of the existing vulnerability it's having. The reason for this is that most of the times admins are very careless about updating their services. They're updating or patching this server. When I mean patching the server, it means downloading new updates. So if vulnerability scanners are there to actually checkmate if a server is up to date. And when they discover that a server is not up to date, the hacker leverage on that to perpetrate evil. So these are the things which you can use in this segment of scanning. Scanning gives you more detailed information, more detailed information, or makes you to understand the whole network or the whole system as a whole. So with the scanning phase, understand it is the information which you have gotten, because take for instance, in your first stage, which is your recognizance, when you check up a name, a domain name server on Whois, once you get the information from a domain from Whois, you can get the IP address of a server. Then once you get that IP address, it is when you come down to your scanning, you can actually make use of that IP address to get more detailed information about that server. Okay, as an example, we will be able to figure out what ports are open and what ports are closed. We will also be able to get information about operating system. The operating system which are being used, it is in your scanning phase that you get information about that. You can also get information on what types of devices that are being used on the network. Scanning phase is a little bit more active, but there are more passive ways of scanning too. So if we want to figure out what type of operating system are being used in the network, we may try to send some network traffic to the system. Send network traffic on the system. Thereby, now you are engaging the network, but in a passive way. The response of all the operating system towards the network traffic will be different. So you have different kind of operating system on the network. An example of passive scanning could be sniffing the network. Sniffing the network, and you do so by an application called Wireshark. You do so by an application called Wireshark. Wireshark is being used to sniff a network. When you engage a Wireshark tells you, first of all, when a traffic is being sent, a Wireshark captures this traffic. It tells you time of leave. That is when the traffic is leaving, time of arrival, the destination which it is going. Then all these things. Then if you go further, thereby interacting, using this Wireshark now to interact with the network, it can actually give you a reply. Understand that you have different kind of servers. You have the Linux, you have the Windows. So and understand that all of them, their responses to when being interacted with are different. So depending on the response they give to you, that is where you'll be able to understand if the type of operating system or the type of server which they are using for the operating system. So scanning is actually it goes a bit further than recognizance, but understand that scanning can also, with scanning, you get better information. But your scanning will be useless if you will waste so much time on scanning if you don't get usable information from your first phase, which is the recognizance. So due to our time, from next week, we'll start from the gaining access. Gaining access, okay. Due to our time, we'll stop here for today. But the assignment is, I just want us to go and please read on this. What is footprinting? Understand it and write it out in your own terms. Please don't do copy and paste for me. Read it, understand it, and write it with your own simple English. Because after next week, or let me see how next week is. It's part of the whole hacking phases. It's part of the whole hacking phases. So understand it very well and try as much as possible to write it in your own language. Try as much as possible to write it in your own simple English. The assignment is, what is footprinting? What is footprinting? What is footprinting? Footprinting, F-O-O-T-P-R-I-N-T-I-N-G, footprinting. Read it, understand it, digest it, then bring it back in your own simple English. We are going to continue from that next week. Thank you so much. There is time for questions. You have questions. We have about 3 minutes before the class comes to an end. Time for questions, please. And sorry, the email which you are to send it still remains sharonchris29@gmail.com. sharonchris29@gmail.com. Please, all these assignments that are being given.
Hello, sir. Good afternoon, sir.
Okay,
hello, sir. Good afternoon, sir. This is Damilare. Damilare. So okay. I want to ask you about this footprinting. As in, you said you will read it on our own. Google search, they read it on our own, then tap it on, as in you should research back to you in our own English language, Abi?
Yes.
Hello, sir.
Yes, okay. yes.
So that was yes. Then concerning the previous assignments, I was not in class last week because I traveled. I was not in class. So can I still do the assignment and submit it to you?
Yes, no, you can do the assignment.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yes, that's all my question, can do the assignment. Do you have the email to submit it?
Yes, I have the email. I have the audio lecture email with me, sir.
Okay.
I have your email with me.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Okay. Any other question? Any other question, please?
Hello, sir.
Okay, I'm with you. I'm hearing you.
Hello.
I'm with you. Ask your question. Ask your question. Please ask your question. Oh, our time is almost fast spent. Okay. Our time is up. Please, the person that wants to ask me a question, please, you can do well by getting across to me on 08133121309. You can call me, text me, or send me a WhatsApp message. I'll be willing to help you whatever way. Thank you so much for your time. Please stay safe.